We should be live. Watch a
Uh,
live video.
well, we're going to start. We're going to get this thing rolling. I don't know. We're doing something new tonight, so hopefully Heather can operate this thing and make it work. I know I see Dan's on there, and probably some other people coming on as well. I don't know how to see all that. Heather will have to tell me. But anyway, I wanted to start with a little bit of housekeeping. If you'll notice on the bottom of the screen, Heather's got some stuff there for you to do. So if you follow those instructions, you can do that. Also, we are going to launch the pay site. It's $125 with a $20 discount. So it'll be 105 to join. And in that, you will get the 6 week, every 6 weeks. I think we're going to go December the 12th will be the first client seminar that you can bring your clients out to. So that'll be fun, and that'll be part of the paid site. We also are building that as we speak. So there'll be new stuff added on. The seminar is going to be on there. I think Zach has a bunch of stuff that's already on there, but it'll continue to grow as we grow. And one of the reasons we launched it a little prematurely is because a lot of people are asking about how to get the book and all that. And we have the book, I think, Heather, I think we have that priced at $10. We'll be doing the audio book, which will also be $10. But just so people know, $2 of the $10 goes to the Making the Difference Foundation, which is a foundation that I've run for over 30 years. We do 1,000 toys at Christmas. We do 100 turkeys at Thanksgiving. We give away cars and houses, and we do backpacks for school and all kinds of stuff like that. So, and we also help other foundations and groups as we see fit and as we can if we can. So anyway, that's some of that for you. So that's going to be displayed right there on the bottom for you to take a look at that. Also, I wanted to kind of start before we get into the tale of two participants. I wanted to get into a couple of tidbits from last week. Now, sometimes I go back over the videos that we talked about, and sometimes I go over some of the tidbits that some of you talk about or comment on. And some of them last week was that if you think that yes is powerful, then you ought to see what these four words do when you try to close. How about when you're trying to engage the close? Why don't you say, what are your thoughts? Now, we all know that the greatest salesman in the world is learns this lesson early, and this lesson would be the first one that talks loses. So when you're done with your presentation, just say, what are your thoughts? And a lot of times, if you just sit there, and it'll seem like forever, but it's usually not, they'll respond and they'll tell you what their thoughts are, and you'll be able to close the deal. The other thing I put on this week was first impressions usually tell you what kind of client your prospect's going to be. I know when I first started in the business, and I know Dan can tell some horror stories of some of the things he's only been in the business for 3 months, and he tells me all this running around that he has to do and all this stuff. And I told him, I said, listen, you got to understand that you're no longer the agent; they are. And so, one of the things I tell people is that first impressions should usually tell you what kind of prospect that individual is going to be. And I understand when you're starting out, you want everybody to buy from you, and you need clients. I understand that. But don't let them work you to the bone to where you're wasting your time when you could be using it a lot wiser on other prospects. So be careful with that. The other thing that we talked about was, and this is where we're going to get into tonight, learn to over budget your investment grade life insurance products. And here's what I watched something the other day, Heather, and I'm going to put a couple features on this next week. I saw two young agents advertising IULs on Facebook. And one young kid, he said something about guaranteed never lose your money. I said, ooh. And so I sent him a thing and said, you need to get with me. I train agents like you. He didn't respond, but I told him, you better take that off. And then I saw another young lady. She had put something on hers, and she said, not that it was guaranteed, but it was protected. So she said it in a better way, and I liked it. But I've watched these ads that young agents put out, and sometimes you have to be careful. So one of the things that is probably the biggest mistake on the IUL is people don't tell them that you have to overfund it. It will not work. It will not perform if you don't tell them the right way to do it. And if you're going to make all these promises, you best show them exactly what they need to do. And a lot of times agents forget that because they're concentrating on the commission and not the product. And I think you got to be careful with that. The other thing I want to do as we get into the tale of two participants, this is a great product to show you how to create cash flow as an agent, right? And the number we're going to use tonight is going to be around $500 a month. And if you're a 100% commission agent, you would get $500 a month until that policy was a year old. And if you could also take an annual pay of $6,000 if you wanted to, but I tell you not to do that. I tell you to take the $500 a month and use that as cash flow. And as you build that up throughout, if you just did one of those sales a month, and by the end of the 12 months, you'll be at about $6,000 a month, and that would continue to roll and it continue to grow as you do that. And that creates cash flow that a lot of agents do not have. Now, the other thing that it protects you from is if somebody changes their mind. And let's say somebody changes their mind and 8 months in and they decide they don't want the product. Well, you're going to have a chargeback. Well, if you just did as earned, you protect yourself. And as a new agent, all it takes is a couple of chargebacks, and you're going to be thinking about a new career. And I'm just telling you, I think the largest chargeback that one of the firms I worked with had was $60,000, and it was a policy that they had written 4 years prior, and it never should have happened. But I can't remember the single premium company that stabbed the agent in the back. That's another thing you're going to learn, that these companies would rather throw you under the bus than to be trampled under the bus themselves. So that's one of the other things your money's going to help you when you join our team. We'll help you with that kind of stuff. And that's why I tell people, make sure you have E&O insurance. But that individual did everything right, but the company stabbed him in the back. Not only did they give the client their money back and they charged him the chargeback, but they went out and replaced the policy to a different thing for the client, and they never gave him the commission. So that's the kind of stuff that happens in this business sometimes, and it gives you a bad taste in your mouth. But that's why you need experienced agents and groups to work with to help you avoid that kind of stuff from happening. So let's get into, and I told Heather, I said, my grandkids are having a little Halloween party and they want Papaw to be there. So I'm going to try my best to finish up. Let me check on my time. I'm probably already over and I have to quit already. No, I don't. All right. So let's see where I'm at. Let's see. I got to do, Jack put a code on my phone, so it makes me have
You got 20 minutes, Bill.
I got 20 minutes. All right, here we go. And I told you guys before, we try our best to keep you guys intrigued and excited. And then some of you can leave or some of you can stay and ask some questions or whatever you need to do. So let's get started. We're going to talk about the first chapter of the book, The Babe Ruth Bucket, Myths and Truths of Tax-Free Retirement. And one of the things that I want to share with you is, if you don't have that, make sure, I think it's somewhere on the screen, or maybe Heather can put it on there later. If you haven't got the first chapter, make sure you get it. This book is chock full of sales ideas. It's got all over it. I know Dan would say that's the truth. It's got all kinds of cool things in it. But the very first thing that I go after is the government's golden goose, and that's the 401k. And if you look into the first chapter, you're going to see that it shows you the cost of, like, I compare a 401k with like a mortgage on a condominium, and I show you the difference in those two. And as you read that, and I'm not covering that tonight, but as you read that part, it'll tie in at the end of the chapter on what we're going to talk about tonight. And I'm going to allow you to, again, read that for yourself at the end, and you're more than welcome to send me some questions if you have any on that particular situation. All right. So as we do the Tale of Two Participants, I was telling Heather that we're getting ready to rewrite the book. We're going to do a second edition. And I just want to give you a little bit of the semantics of where we're going. We use 8% in the example in this book, and we used that when we wrote it in 2015, and that was about the average at the time. It is now 6%, and so if you take the numbers are easy. You just take 2% times 30, and you end up with a 60% decrease. So these numbers would be 60% different, and when we get to the end, I'll show you. But it's all semantics. It doesn't really matter. What I'm trying to get you to see is that there's a huge differential in doing the 401k and doing the Babe Ruth bucket, or the IUL. Now I call it the Babe Ruth bucket for a couple of reasons. One reason is you can use a whole life, you can use an index universal life, or you can use a global universal life. There's 3 different products that I suggest, and it's in the book, to tell you which ones you can use. A lot of people like to use Pacific Life's whole life. They really enjoy using that, and they're the number one company at doing these. So that may be, but again, you have to know what your client needs, not necessarily what you want to sell. So sometimes that particular product may be perfect for whoever you're dealing with, and sometimes it may not. So you got to be careful with that. Now, if we look at this particular example, and as we look into what this guy does, we got participant A, and he believes in the old-fashioned way of contributing to the 401k. So he's going to put in $6,520, which is about $550 a month. And I figured if you go by Dave Ramsey's theory of 15%, this guy makes about $50,000 a year. And Dave would tell you that you take 15% of what you earn and put it into 401k or a mutual fund or whatever Dave wants you to risk your entire retirement and safety on. He tells you to go that direction. And so the other gentleman, he is listening to us, and he's listening about the Babe Ruth bucket. And what he does is he's going to do $7,200 annually, and he's going to also, now both of them have insurance. One of them has a $600,000 term, and my guy ran the numbers on that, and that would probably run him about $600 a year for the term. And so $18,000 over the time period of keeping this particular product, and then he runs out. The money's gone after 30 years. But if he dies, his family gets $600,000. The other gentleman, he's got the IUL or the life savings account attached to it. So he's going to have $600,000 forever, permanent. And he's going to have living benefits and other stuff like that attached to it. Okay. So Heather, let's go to the next slide. Heather's my slide girl. There you go. All right. So then what happens, these are the results, to make sure you're on the right one, because I don't want you to mess people up, Heather. I want to make sure we do that here. Let me see. I think you did it good. You did good, girl. All right. So now let's get to where results happen after 30 years. So after 30 years, the gentleman with the 401k has $858,000. The gentleman that's listening to us has $709,000. Now, if we just stopped right there, Heather, people would say, "What are you doing, right? What are you doing? I don't want to do that. I want the one on the left." I tell them, "Well, wait to see what else happens." So let's go to the next bottom down here. It says zero insurance. He lost his insurance. Now, Dave would tell you that at a certain period of time, you no longer need life insurance. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was 18, 25, 35, 40s, and I'm now in my 50s, I have a lot more reasons to have life insurance. I have a lot more reasons for estate planning and things like that. But according to Dave, you no longer need it. And Susie Orman would tell you the same. And so all that money you don't have anymore. So you have the 850,000, and if you die or you have something where you need a living benefit, you have to take it out of the 401k, which we all know is going to end up being a tax situation. But you got to save $65,000 in deferred tax before you took it out. So that's pretty good. Now, this is where the front of the chapter and the back of the chapter will tell you how much that $65,000 in the 401k really cost you. Now, this particular gentleman ended up doing $1 million. So we all know the numbers on 35 to 50%. That $65,000 cost that individual $500,000 in taxes. I bet they didn't tell you that when you bought your 401k, and I'm going to bet you that your clients aren't being told that when they buy it. Yes? So that's a big problem with me. So let's go over to the other gentleman who only has $709,000, and he has a lifetime death benefit of $864,000. He's got no tax savings, so to speak, because he didn't defer any of it. He didn't get any of that, right? And he has in his retirement account $709,000 tax free. So let's go to the next slide, Heather. Now, one of the things I want to share with you, and I want to throw this little piece in. I didn't cover it in the beginning, and I apologize, but when you have a situation where one of the great things they'll tell you, Heather, is they'll say, well, listen, my boss is going to match this. And so in this one, if you looked at the first slide, he matched it up to $1,000. So he put a little extra money in there for this guy, and that's how he got where he got. But what they don't tell you is that's an extra tax situation, number one. Number two, did you know that with the Babe Ruth bucket or the IUL, that you can put that in a company and the boss can match that as well? But there's a little bit of nugget in there. Not only can they match it, I always tell the boss, I said, listen, why do you just have a buy sell on the three major partners? You have 500 employees. How hard are they to replace? Well, it cost me 20 to 30,000 to replace one of those. Well, why wouldn't you match their IUL and get a little piece of that life insurance if they die while they're employed? And you might say, well, why would he do that? Well, why wouldn't he do it? It saves him the 20 or 30,000 it's going to cost to replace that employee. And why would it benefit the employee? Well, why wouldn't it? If he doesn't die and he retires, he gets the same money that they put in for the 401k guy into his IUL. Okay, so that will also help you. You only need two participants, right, to be able to do a payroll deduction. I mean, I don't think they've changed the rules on that, but what else it does is it gets the owner to say, well, why don't I offer this to everybody? And all of a sudden you got a 35 to 400. If there's 500 people in there, there's a good chance you're going to write most of them, especially when you do this presentation. Because I guarantee you, and I can, like I said, this is going to be done in 20 minutes. This isn't that long. I can do this at lunch hour, and I can teach them all what they're not being told. Okay, and so let's finish up with what happens. And again, let's just understand the semantics. These numbers can change, and they have changed. And it doesn't, that's not what we're trying to get at. I'm trying to get you to see the difference in the volatility in a 401k versus the IUL. So this gentleman wants to take $97,000 out of his 401k. For him to do that, he's got to take $129,340 because he has to pay the $32,335 in tax. And in this equation, it's only going to last him 9 years. So at 74, he's going to run out of money. Nobody tells you that when you sign up for the 401k, do they? Now, let's look at the other side. The other gentleman, he wants $97,000 out of an annual income for life, and it's going to be tax-free versus the loans he's going to borrow against what his face amount is. And it's become about $3 million now because it's grown with the amount of money that he's put in over the last 30-some years. And if he dies at 100, he will have received $3.3 million, and his family will get still another $3 million in both free income tax. Now, people say, how does that happen? How can they do that? Well, it's compounded interest, number one. Number two, they're suggesting that if he keeps it till he's 100, obviously there'd be more premiums and things like that. But the point I'm trying to make is, no matter how you slice this, the 401k never, ever can come close to competing with it. The 401k will run out of money. And that's what I tell people in my seminars. The only thing worse than dying is outliving your money. And a lot of people, this is all they have on top of their Social Security. Now, here's the other benefit with this versus the Social Security. Now, remember, if I'm receiving tax-free dollars, it's not affecting my Social Security income. Yes? That could be huge in some cases, right? Because we know that if you make a certain amount of money, what do? They tax your Social Security up to 85%. So you have to be careful with that. So that being said, as this ties in at the end of the chapter, it will show you what it cost an individual just to get that tax nugget of $65,000, I think, in this guy's case, and it cost him $500,000 in taxes over the time period that he needed to get the money. So what I want you to know, when you look at the two participants and when you study this, the first part of the chapter and the back part of the chapter, there's a method to my madness. It does come together, but you got to read that first and then bring it all together and say, oh, I see where he's going. And I just want people, and I try to make it simple by using a condominium loan for 20 years and then a 401k. So you can see it's the same thing. It appreciates and depreciates and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. Heather, that's it. I mean, that's the two participants. To me, this is a great thing to start with your clients, especially people that are looking at a younger generation. This may not work for somebody that's 60 years old. You got to look at something different. And I will tell you that there are other things you can do for people that are older, and we'll do that. Some of that's in the book. I don't know what chapter. I think it's the one where we do the transfer of the 401k through the IUL. We clean the taxes on the 401k or IRA or TSA or 403b, and we put it through the IUL. And then they have so much for life insurance, so much for tax freedom. And then if they use an income account, they'll also have a little bit of income left to live on after they've washed it out. So that's also in the book. Like I said, I think Dan's read the book and he probably could testify. There's a lot of nice little nuggets in this book. It's just something that I try to keep simple. And I hope people enjoyed this, the two participants. It's a little different. I can't see all the squares if they're lighting up or not, Heather, but I'm sure we'll be getting some feedback. And if you got questions, if I didn't get to answer them, we will. But Dan's telling me that Facebook seems to be frozen, but I don't know. But hopefully, even Heather said it's not. So Dan's a lot like me. We cannot work computers. But anyway, where do we go from here, Heather? I appreciate everybody for listening, and hopefully you'll let us know if you're watching live or replay.
Yep, we got about 20 to 25 people have been coming in. Just want to thank Colleen and Brendan and China and Paul and Justin and John and Scott and Drew and Mike Dressander and Dan and Tony, Sherry, Will, Tracy, John Brown.
Sounds like more than 20 to me.
Yeah. We got a lot of people who came and spent their Halloween with us. So thank you for investing in yourself, investing in your career, and coming here to be a participant. So I am definitely looking forward to all those DMs for either the first chapter of the book or the link to get into the website and our portal. I mean, the portal's still a little bit messy, but the book's in there, some videos are in there, and you don't want to miss jumping on this portal because on, what'd you say, the 16th is going to be the
12th
first
of December will be our first client seminar. 12th of December, that's on a Tuesday night because I didn't want to do it on Wednesday church night, and Monday everybody's watching football, so we do Tuesday night. Like we're doing here. We're going to move this time up to 4 o'clock next week. We're going to be doing the lives at 4. I was going to have Mike and them come over, but I don't know if they're quite ready yet. That's an FMO that wants to talk to you guys about their training. So I'll probably do another class. I know a lot of you enjoy that. One of the things that's going to go on, because Scott's helping me and Drew's helping me and Colleen, they're trying to teach me. I want to put stuff on every 5 seconds. You can't do that. You can't do it. So tomorrow there's going to be a real good webinar that we did a while back. I think Heather's already seen it. It's really super, and it'll be in green and white. I actually narrate it, and it's pretty good as well. So that'll be on tomorrow, and then next week, me and Drew are going to come up with the title of what we're doing next week. Might be another one of these things out of the chapter. I don't know, but it'll be something exciting and engaging for you. And hopefully you guys will enjoy that. At some point, we'll be doing the lives probably every other week, but there will always be content on the page. But right now, I mean, until everybody gets tired of it, I enjoy it. So, like I said, I could do these every day if Heather would let me.
And, we got a comment from Mike D. He's like, he will be on. So I think you're going to get a phone call from Mikey D pretty soon.
All right.
Hopefully you still get it after I start nicknaming him Mikey D.
Mikey D. I call him Michael. I think he likes Mike, but yeah, they got some really cool stuff. They are an FMO, and again, we're not trying to push anybody into any certain direction. I'm not an FMO and not an IMO, but there's a lot of people that don't have the proper training. That's why they're coming here. And a lot of people don't have the proper products, and that's what Mike and them will talk about. And again, if you're happy with your FMO, your IMO, stay where you're at. But we appreciate you coming here for training. And there's a lot of FMOs and IMOs that are contacting us because of the training that I do. And like I said, there'll be more. But Mike's group and Steve, they're really super guys. They're not much to look at like me, but they're very nice fellas. I'm going to pay for that probably. I'm kidding.
Not everyone can have hair like mine. So,
I'm telling you. But anywho. So hopefully some people will ask some questions during the night and even on the replay, Heather, and we'll try to respond to them as well. And then hopefully this went well tonight. I'm sure Drew will let us know. I'm sure Scott will let us know, and Colleen and them. Hopefully they'll give us some feedback on how we did this evening. But I appreciate you, Heather. I appreciate all the team, Scott, Drew, Colleen, Zach, everybody that's a part of what we're doing. It'll just keep growing because our job and our objective is to make sure that you guys have so much stuff on these pages and so much training and so much excitement that you're going to want to